Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Billy Erickson. I'm the sales manager for Tequila Fortaleza. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what standing out looks like from my perspective. And I kind of have a couple buckets here that we're going to go through, which is one, the physicality of it, two, your processes within your own business, three, your team, and then four, your story. So I felt that these were very tactical things that we could talk about here that are going to be advice for you guys when you're thinking about what your bottle looks like, what your POS looks like, what kind of systems am I using internally in my business, and who am I going to hire when you have enough revenue to bring somebody on. Why should you pick somebody? You need to pick somebody, how you pick somebody, and then finally, what story am I selling when I'm in a bar? What am I telling? What am I communicating here? So physically standing out. Well, picture on the left here, I want to look at our bottle, which is right up here with the little agave on top. That's one of our key identifiers. It's been copied by a couple people now because people are picking up that when people are in a bar, they spot our top. I can't tell you how many of my friends have looked across a bar. They see, oh, that's the Fortaleza top. Oh, Billy, when I'm in a bar, I always look for your guys' top to see if they see you. But there's a couple other things as well on the bottle that I want to talk about standing out, which is the squareness. You see a lot of round bottles up there, and the height. When we actually first came to market, a lot of the bottles that were out in the tequila market at the time were short, round. They took up a lot of shelf space. When my dad was designing our bottle, we actually went through probably 8 or so designs before he settled on this one. One, this was hand blown. Two, it was the opposite of all the other bottles that were out there. Thinking the short, squat Patron bottle, the short, squat Don Julio bottle, all, looking at our competitive set here and then saying, okay, what are they doing? Let's do something else. So then the second, this is our stand. And this is kind of difficult for you guys to see, but in the background, everybody else at this tasting is in tables that are about waist height, 3 feet across. I can't tell you how many feathers we ruffled when we would bring this gigantic bar setup into our distributors' trade tasting shows. It took them about a year and a half to get used to it. We have to constantly remind them, hey, we don't need a table. We're going to bring our own. And the question is, why do we do this? Well, you can see we're literally separating ourselves from the competition. At a tasting like this, where a customer is going to come in and they're going to taste through 20 or 30 different products in an afternoon, you need something that really is going to catch their memory in addition to just the product. So I can't tell you here with how much, compliments we've gotten on this bar. Wow, this bar is so cool. How did you guys make this? And I love telling a story. Well, my dad handmade the first one himself. This was his brainchild of an idea here. We wanted to really separate ourselves. We want to give people this Mexico experience. We want them to feel as if for a moment they've stepped out of the, sterile BCB room and into our distillery in Mexico, where we've got, bright colors, the cantina sign, nice old wooden stain, with a good stain on it, so they feel like they're being transported out of there. And it's going to create a brand memory for them that's a positive experience. When you're going to market, think about what is your POS communicating? What's the feel behind it? What is your bottle communicating? What brand values are you communicating? Our POS has continued to do really very well because my dad hired, we'll come to this in a moment here, a stellar marketing sort of genius. His name's Stefano Francavilla. Stefano is one of our key people on our team because he's able to consistently come up with POS that gives the brand a feeling that just other brands do not have. The materials feel different. He's giving something a physical touch to the brand that other people don't have and can't copy. Now, second, this is a very boring list, and I apologize for using this slide, but I wasn't sure how to communicate the process other than this. This is a sample list of distributors in California. So you can see here's about 12 of them. These are people who have licenses to distribute from a legal perspective to bars, restaurants, retail locations in the state of California. Now, some of these are wineries, which you would have to look up or know, like Chateau Diana. And what I want to communicate here with this is a lot of brands, when they come to market, will go to Southern. They'll go to the biggest distributor they can find, thinking, okay, here's a big distributor. This is going to be great. They're going to pick up my product. I'm going to provide some incentive money. We're going to get a bunch of placements, and this is going to be great. We're going to kickstart our product. And it goes great for about 2 months. They burn through a bunch of incentive money. They burn through thousands of dollars. You're on every shelf in the business. And then 2 months later, you're gone. Where did your brand go? The incentive money was gone. Southern has other priorities to worry about. You know, you need to have a really well executed brand if you're going to do that. You need to have a lot of money. And for a lot of us in this room here, you look at how many small brand stands are. That's a challenging aspect, you know? So if you are in that position, it can work out really well. We've seen Casamigos has done really well in his example with Southern. You know, they had significant investors though. And so for us, that wasn't going to be our route to market. That was going to be challenging for us. We started looking at what distributors are going to fit with our business model. How do we process this? What are we looking for in a distribution relationship? Where are the accounts that we're trying to hit? And that process evolved into essentially calling, oh, I think this bar is going to want to carry us. Let's call them and ask them where they think we would be a good fit at. And that's how we've begun selecting distributors, is calling ahead, investigating the market, finding out where we want to be in that market, and then executing on that. Because you can't come in and look and go, oh, that worked for Casamigos, it's going to work for me. You have to think about how this process is going to support your packaging and your branding, and they're going to be very related. So this is actually some excerpts from our Facebook pages here that we've gotten tagged in. And I know it's kind of an odd thing to show, right? But if you start reading these mementos here, which is, this is a 10 photo notification. The other one is a guy thanking us for delivering some bottles to his wedding, which is just a few bottles, but it makes a big statement. And how is this related to the team? Well, if you're picking the right people, they're going to create the right experiences with your brand. You want to make sure you pick people that fit with your brand image, 1. 2, you want to pick people that are going to leave your customers with a good feeling at the end of the day. And they're going to leave them with a good feeling not only about their brand, but about that person as a person. And that can be really challenging. You know, I walk past some of the stands here and you see people who are very flat, they're not interactive. Somebody didn't do a good job picking a salesperson. You know, you have to have that mentality, but you also want the people to be unique. You want to pick people that are going to really stand out, because as soon as your ambassador walks out of the door of a bar or restaurant, another one's going to come in. You know, as soon as I leave, Robert's sales guys are right behind me coming in, telling them about Mezcal Vago. You know, similar vein, but still, think about how many brands are going to come in after you and try and push your product right back off the shelf. So your team is so critical to not only your brand identity, but your brand identity is also going to be driven by your team. As we were talking about with our example of Stefano earlier, he's helped define our whole marketing experience. So hope that made sense. Now, lastly, I want to cover, we've been very lucky. Our story is an embarrassment of riches. My family started making tequila in the 1870s, which is an amazing history to be able to tell. We had a beautiful little distillery that was left to us, which is another key facet of our story that we're able to tell. But in addition to just the family history, I've highlighted here, this is our Taona, and this is a process story that we're using to tell how we're making it differently than other people are doing it. And then on top of that, my dad and I work together. We're the management at our company, and that's us right there with my dad's dog. And so it's a very human story to it. But just think about, this is 3 aspects of a story that I'm going to tell somebody, or that I'm going to be able to tell somebody. So one is this family history, the second is a father-son team, and the third is this process story. And then we're layering that on top of, we have a great team, and our process is different, so we're already selecting people different, and then layer that on top of our packaging stands out, right? So what I'm trying to communicate here is that you want to have as many levels as you can to this differentiation, but you don't want to be going in separate directions. You want to make sure that these networks all back each other up. And so in that vein, want to talk about, if you're looking for a good example of this, Michael Porter's What is Strategy is a seminal piece of strategy in business writing. He talks about Southwest Airlines in the United States. So the airline market, very, very competitive market, right? You look at the price of gas drives how much you can charge for a ticket. There's almost no brand loyalty. Then the suppliers control a lot of it. You can only buy planes from 2 corporations, right? It's a very competitive market, very tight, not a lot of room for profit. Well, Southwest comes in to differentiate themselves. How do they do that? They build a network of all these things that stand out differently. You look at their planes. There's no first-class service in their planes. Their planes are all the same planes. So physically, they have a key difference from their competitors. That means all their pilots are interchangeable, right? So they can move a pilot to a different plane, no problem. 2, the no first class means there's no different kind of service. Everybody's getting peanuts. They're removing the number of items that they have for a quick turnaround. Now their planes are back in the air. They're able to make more money because their planes are constantly in the air flying versus sitting on the ground, getting changed over for service. If a pilot doesn't make it, they can't fly that airplane, you know. So it's a masterpiece, and I would encourage you to read that when you're assembling your brand.